All right, so I'm here to persuade you guys about how military and veteran suicide is a problem in this country. So after listening to my speech, you guys will see that veteran suicide is a problem both in service and out. And I'm going to show you guys how veteran suicide affects the overall population and some ways to prevent it. So one day you're at the grocery store and you're in line getting some groceries and stuff, and you see a couple of service members over there, they're talking, they're chit-chatting, doing this and whatnot. And you overhear him, them making some comments about, I wish so and so wouldn't have done it, or I wish he wouldn't have taken the easy way out. They're talking about veteran suicide, or they're talking about people suicide that has happened to people that were on active duty. And it's a real thing out there, and it's a problem. Last year's count for veterans a day is roughly 17 veterans take their lives every single day, and it's becoming a problem, and I would love to try to prevent it. The issues that are with our servicemen and women deal with in and out of service. The fact that some service members tend to take their own lives because they can't seek the mental help that they need or get the break they need due to being overworked or overran. So basically, they are worked so hard by their unit, by the Army, by whatever service that they're in, that they just can't mentally check out. They're always working. They're always, they're never at home. They can't, when they get off work, they can't just, decompress from work. They're always having to do stuff, and they just can't, they can't just leave basically they can't leave work at work and keep things from home at home. And I had the same issue. I was bringing my work home, and it became an issue. So, moving on. So it is important that people are aware of the impact that veteran suicide plays on one community to nationwide. People really don't realize the amount of veterans and service members that try or commit suicide each year. It's an astounding number. And granted, there's only the 1 or 2% of veterans that serve in the overall U.S. population or nationwide, but it's still a problem. And a lot of the veterans out there just feel like they don't have the help that they need, or that people or just the support they need to be able to get the help that they need, whether from active duty, from invaded behavioral health, or from the VA. Do you know how many military servicemen and women die from suicide each day? I will begin my discussion by showing the data from the year 2020. In 2020, however, there were 6,146 veteran suicides. That averages to nearly 17 vets taking their life each day, according to the 2022 report by the Department of Defense and the Department of Veterans Affairs. The suicide rate for veterans is 57% higher than for non-veteran U.S. adults, basically. So it's ridiculous that men and women, our servicemen and women and our veterans have taken their lives. It's ridiculous, and it's becoming an issue. The psychological impact. So the impact that, a veteran or a service member that it has on the unit itself is a pretty big one. Like, you show up to work, you don't see the person every day, and you tend to think about, okay, well, this person's no longer with us. Like, what can we do to help his family, help her family, whatever the case is. And you just can't, that's all you think about, because you can't live past the fact that the person you sat next to at lunch, or you went to lunch with, or you at the range with, they're no longer with us. The impact of suicide in a unit is very disheartening. Once the unit knows about the suicide, it tends to go on alert, and that's basically all the unit thinks about, especially the lower enlisted, or whichever unit that it impacted as a whole. And all the soldiers of the unit tend to ask questions on, what happened? Is there any details you can tell us? I shouldn't be saying is there anything that we can do to help their family? You know, what's going to happen to his or her belongings, so on and so forth. The command team tends to overlook. Sometimes they tend to overlook what happened. And I'm one to say that sometimes they're like, oh well, we weren't aware of what was going on. Yeah, whatever. They tend to sweep it under the rug. The fact that this happened on their watch, they tend to push the blame instead of taking blame. So they'll blame the person on duty, they'll blame their chain of command, they'll blame their first line leader, their supervisor, to what happened. But I mean, really, everyone's to blame, not just one person, not just two people. It's the overall unit as a whole because they didn't do their job taking care of the soldier. The behavioral, I mean, there is behavioral health available for soldiers, and it's all they got to do is push up, you know, talk to their chain of command, talk to their PCM or whatever the doctors they have. And the impact on family, it's obviously the families would be taking the suicide pretty bad, or they would feel like there's the army's to blame because they feel like it was a wrongful death because of something that they caused. You know, with the overgoing stress, the overwork, the fact that they may miss a important day like an anniversary, a birthday, a childbirth, stuff like that tend to push somebody over the edge to where, you know, it's like, oh, what's the point anymore if I miss all of these, you know, life achievements that they can't, you know, they'll never be able to relive. And the fact that someone, you know, someone has to know their ignorance into what had happened. They can't say that they didn't know. Somebody knew something and they didn't say anything, and that's what happened. The soldier took his life because he felt nobody was there to take care of him and his or her life, and they feel like that was their easiest way out because there was no other way to go. Something such as suicide in the army on a military simulation tends to draw a lot of attention more than one place. You have the media that's outside, you know, outside whatever town that the base is outside of, or whatever the case. They tend to start investigating, start poking. Hey, what happened? We found this out, and then the army tries to cover their butt, so to speak. And sometimes it doesn't always work out that way. The physical impact. The soldiers looking for their fellow comrade that isn't there. The army turns you from strangers into brothers and sisters in arms, and you know, a fellow brother and sister that you won't see no more. Somebody you grew up with in the army, in the Navy, whatever service branch you have. It's a gap that no other person can fill. And you know, it could be that leader that couldn't take it anymore. It could be that friend that needed help that didn't know where to turn to or who to turn to, and they just like, hey, this is it. I can't get the help. I don't know what to do. And then that was their first option is to take their own life. You know, the bond that you shared with that person, you'll never be able to get back. Or you know, you have the memories of the person, all the things that you guys did, and then the army sees you as a number. And I hate to say it, but that it's cold hard truth. You're a number and you're replaceable, and the army doesn't take suicide seriously because everybody's replaceable and they don't really care. And that's just the way I think about it. The emotional impact from the unit, the emotions that the unit feels after the suicide, they just don't want to know. They just don't want to do anything. They just don't want to move on. They feel like they could have helped if they knew. Most suicides in the military, the service member was showing signs, but the unit or battle buddies just didn't recognize them in time. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes you could prevent it. Sometimes you couldn't. I mean, we really don't know. The fact that, the emotional impact on the family, because the family feels like they were betrayed because the army had one job, and that's to take care of their loved one, and the army didn't do that. And the army pushed them to the point to where they couldn't, they had to take the easy way out. And no, they will no longer have their the mother that lost her son or daughter, or a wife losing her husband, kids loses one of their parents. It's something that you can't, you just, it's hard to move, it's hard to move on from. And it's the things that, you think about it and you're like, well, I can't just, move on to another person because that was my significant other, or that was my child that I shouldn't have had to bury because I trusted the army and they betrayed me. The fact that, the emotion they feel towards the unit, to what could have happened or what could have been done to save him or her from going through the suicide attempt. I mean, a lot of people tend to seclude themselves. They tend to push everybody away, and then that's when they're the most vulnerable, and that's when they do it. They typically try not to do it, with family and friends around because they don't want to see them, like that. There's resources available for anybody that's thinking or anything about suicide. If you need help, there's a number you can dial. It's 988, or you can go to militaryonesource.mil, and service members can seek embedded behavioral health, EVH, or go to the hospital. Veterans can call 911, or they can contact the VA crisis line at 988 and press 1. In conclusion, I described the different impacts suicide takes on the unit, family, and community, different ways to help your fellow soldiers. To show you why veteran suicide and soldier suicide is a real problem in this country. Identify the ways that we can help veterans and service members prevent this from happening. And if you see something, say something. Veteran and service member suicide is preventable, and all it takes is you. Thank you.